With COD champs right around the corner and so many storylines and legacies at stake, this is what it would mean for every player and team attending the event if they were to go on and win it. Starting out with the 8th seeded Miami Heretics, this would be the first win for any of these players on the pro level. It would also potentially be the biggest upset we've ever seen at COD champs. Miami has had a very up and down year, starting the season really well online, then struggling to win a map on land for the first 3 majors. But have ended the year strong and secured themselves the 8th seed heading into champs. And drawing Atlanta FaZe in winners round 1 definitely means they have the work cut out for them. But this would be a super upset or underdog story for Miami if they were to come out and win COD champs. Then for our 7th seed, it is the LA Thieves. Similar to Miami, this would be everybody on the team's first major victory. This would put LA Thieves as the first organization to win 2 rings in the CDL era, and would also put JCap and Shane in conversations for being some of the best coaches of all time. But possibly the most interesting part about this is, of course, the well-known OpTic curse. For those who maybe don't know about the OpTic curse, essentially over the last few years, every time OpTic has dropped someone, they have gone on to win champs. After MW 2019, they dropped Arcides. He went on to win in Cold War with FaZe. After Cold War, they dropped Envoy, who went on to win with LA Thieves and Vanguard. And after Vanguard, they dropped Sender, their coach, who went on to win an MW2 with New York Subliners. And this season, Dan Ghosty has the potential to live up to that OpTic curse and go on to win champs with LA Thieves. And there is one other team with the OpTic curse riding on them this season that we'll get into in a second. But before that, we got to talk about the 6th-seeded Los Angeles Guerrillas. All 4 of their current players, DiamondCon, Estriel, Fame, and Flames, this would be their first major victory. Obviously, a team that has had a very interesting season, really struggling online, but then when they came to land consistently placing top 6 and even got top 3 at the last major. It would be interesting to see if a guy like Adam Assault would get credited with the COD champs ring. Obviously, he is not in the starting lineup, but he did play about half the season with LAG. And so if he was to get a ring here, it would be Assault's 2nd ring as a player. Definitely putting Assault in a weird conversation, as he would be the only player to be on the 2 worst teams to ever win COD champs, and also would have 2 wins in his career, both being COD champs, even though he technically wouldn't be winning champs this year because he obviously isn't playing, but to some extent he played half the year, so maybe he would be credited with the ring, giving him his 2nd. But LAG, another team, super underdogs here, but obviously has had some success on land. Well, I say success, they've made some runs on land is a nice way to put it. So them making the run here would definitely be pretty crazy and would be pretty interesting for the legacy of their players. And then we get into our 5th-seeded team. It is the Seattle Surge. This would be O4, Brezzy, and Abuza's first major victory as professionals. But this would be Hook's 2nd ring and 6th major victory of his career, putting him in probably most people's top 20 all-time lists, and would even potentially have him as a top 10 SMG all-time. So definitely a big jump potential here in Hook's career if he was to go on and win the COD champs with Seattle Surge. And Seattle are that other team with the OpTic curse, right? They obviously have Hook, who was on OpTic last season. They also had Illy earlier in the year, who was on OpTic last season. And then, of course, they have their coach, Rambo Ray, who was on OpTic last season. So kind of a lot weighing with the OpTic curse here on Seattle Surge, so maybe they're the favorites to get it done. But now we get into our top 4 teams, and starting out with the number 4 seeded New York Subliners. NYSL could potentially be the first organization to go back-to-back at COD champs this season. It would also make them the first franchise to win 2 rings in the CDL. This would be Sib's 3rd win, Hydra and Kismet's 6th win, and Skies' 8th win in their all-time careers. Obviously being Hydra, Kiz, and Skies' 2nd ring. This would for sure put Kismet in top 30 all-time conversations easily. Skies and Hydra would without a doubt be moving into top 20 convos, potentially even higher, especially for Hydra, being as he is a guy racking up MVPs in his career. And Hydra would definitely fully solidify himself, no debate, as the EU GOAT. I would say right now, he likely is the EU GOAT for most people, right? I'm sure Kleenex, Insight, Bance, guys like that get some honorable mentions for some people. But Hydra would without a doubt be the EU GOAT, getting his 2nd ring. And they would also be proving all their doubters wrong from dropping Priesta last year. Obviously got a lot of hate, a lot of slack throughout this season. Obviously went on to win Major 4, which definitely helps. But if they were to go on and win champs here after dropping Priesta for Sib, it would definitely prove that they knew what they were doing. Then our number 3 seeded team is OpTic Texas, the fan favorites. This would be OpTic's first ring since 2017. It's been 7 years since they last won COD champs, and that was their only COD champs victory. This would be Pred's 3rd career win, Dashy's 4th, Shotzi's 7th, and Kenny's 10th, putting Kenny in a pretty elite conversation. Not many players have 10+ wins. This would obviously be Shotzi and Kenny's 2nd ring of their career. Definitely putting Shotzi in top 15 all-time conversations, and Kenny, honestly, in top 10 conversations. Pred and Dashy would still be an interesting spot. Dashy would probably break into that top 30. Pred, though, only being his 3rd win, he does have an MVP under his belt, So maybe you could argue it, but I think he'd probably still potentially sit outside that top 30 or right around the fringe. For our number 2 seeded team, it is the Toronto Ultra. This would go on to be Scrap's 3rd victory, CleanX's 6th, Insight's 5th, and Envoy's 7th. For Envoy, this would mean an absolute ton for him, giving him his 2nd ring, without a doubt putting him top 15 in all-time conversations, and would likely lock him in as the best player in the CDL era up until this point. Envoy is currently the winningest player in the CDL era. If he was to go on and win 2 rings, it would definitely be hard to argue that he hasn't had the best career in the last 5 years. For CleanX and Insight, this would be their 3rd Champs Grand Finals appearance, obviously appearing in Cold War and in MW2, finishing 2nd place at both of those events. Toronto Ultra, definitely a franchise, you know, on the cusp of getting their 1st ring. Definitely a franchise that I'm almost surprised hasn't gotten one just yet. But then we finish off with our number 1 seeded team. It is none other than Atlanta FaZe for the 5th season in a row, finishing number 1 in COD Champs seeding. Just absolutely incredible plays out of them the entire season. Of course, they would be the first team to win 2 rings in the CDL. This would be Draz's 5th win, Celium's 9th win, and Simpinabeezy's 11th win, giving Draz and Cell their 2nd ring, which would easily put Draz in the top 30 and would probably move Cell into that top 10. And then for Simpinabeezy, obviously the guys probably with the largest potential legacy effect here at COD Champs. This would put them on their 3rd ring in an elite conversation with Karma, Crimsix, and Clayster. And this 3rd ring would definitely move them into the top 5 all time, potentially even top 3, 1, 2, 3 for many people. There's definitely a lot riding on this event for every single team, but for me, I think Atlanta FaZe almost has the most pressure because of how good they are every single season, every single event, but still finish typically in that 2nd or 3rd place. That 2nd place, the Silver Surfers, we obviously all know they're being called. Definitely a lot riding on this and could mean a ton for their players' legacies, as it would be another ring to their award case if they were to win. But that is how everybody's legacy career would be affected for those going to play at COD Champs. I personally would love to see a different team with players that have never win before, but obviously looking at our top 4, they all at least have somebody who has rings, right? OpTic have Shotzi and Kenny, Toronto have Envoy, New York won last year, and obviously we all know the FaZe guys have a ring. So the likeliness of a team outside those top 4 winning is definitely pretty low, but I would absolutely love to see it. But you let me know whose legacy, whose career all time do you think is affected most by going on and winning COD Champs in just a couple weeks on July 18th. And with all that being said, make sure to sub. We're on the road to 5K and we'll be posting a ton more CDL and COD content throughout the offseason. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.